Hello everyone, I is Joan. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and today we are here with a video on the most iconic pre-modern soccer cards and stickers, at least to my eye. As you know, we did this last week with Modern. I haven't released that video yet, but I'm hoping the perception is that people enjoyed it. I'm sure there's some debate to be had, as there will be today, on which makes the top 10 and which you do not. Perfectly fine with that. If you typically enjoy the videos, make sure to leave a like. Helps me, helps the channel. But with that said, let's go ahead and get talking a little further here. So as we do, typical disclaimer, this is my personal list. So of course you can have different ideas. I would propose you to do so. That would be great. This is also not meant to tell you what the best cards are. Rather, what I feel are the most widely recognizable soccer cards from each era. Today, of course, being pre-modern. Again, you know, there are rare iconic cards. There are iconic cards that are rare. They can go hand in hand at times. Typically, I feel iconic cards are cards that are easily recognizable from maybe even people outside of soccer. It's going to be less so the case here, since pre-modern, you got to be a little in the weeds to be able to know, but still, fairly populous cards and stickers are what we're looking for, and I think that's what we got here today. So, in terms of honorable mentions, there are a few, and these are the few that sort of were right outside my list. You know, I think the one that's probably the closest in my mind is the Maradona 86. I'll also preface this video by saying I chose pre-modern dating to be 1980 to 2014. If you went a year earlier, you could have got in the Calciatore Maradona from 79, and I think that would be well worthwhile having here. And also I'll add, at most, there's only going to be 2 cards of one player. I don't want to just throw the list and make it full of Messi and Ronaldo and call it a day. I'd like to get some other people in here, so let's go ahead and do that. So, starting off here at number 10, I have the 1999 Panini Ronaldinho Campeonato Brasileiro. Of course, this is the Brazilian Panini release from 1999, and it carries none other than a rookie Ronaldinho. One that isn't impossible, but isn't the easiest. It definitely doesn't come up every week, so if you want to go after one, and especially in particular great, you might have to go ahead and wait for the perfect moment to strike. Definitely more iconic, I feel like, for the player than the sticker itself. I like the color scheme, if I'm being honest, but I think the in-action shot isn't the best, especially for someone like Ronaldinho. You'd probably rather have him over the ball, or maybe like a nice headshot where you can get the upper part of his torso and his head, make it nice and clean. I feel like the image detracts a bit in terms of why this isn't higher on the list, despite Ronaldinho being a fairly collectible pre-modern player for sure. And so I think it squeezes here on the list. Of course, we're going to be rookie heavy for the most part, and I think a lot of the rookies have become more iconic. Say, for instance, I believe that, you know, the rookie nature of this could be what puts it ahead of the 86 Maradona. I could understand wanting the 86 Maradona here, but you also have the 82 Maradona, like I said, the Calciatore potentially if you went a year earlier, so I think the Ronaldinho is an appropriate start to this list. Moving in at number 9, here we have Thierry Henry's 1996-1997 Panini foot sticker. Just a classic one, and this is what I'm talking about in terms of eye appeal nature of a sticker. I think, you know, well, it's tricky. I think Ronaldinho's more of like a cult figure, but also at the same time, Arsenal collectors are massive in soccer, and so Thierry Henry, I believe, holds a little bit higher of a position due to his collectability, and that's why I feel like he edges out Ronaldinho in that way. I also think the sticker is just amazing looking. I mean, there's really no debate there. Red border, red kit, Thierry Henry looking young, looking spry, big old smile, and got the flow going. I mean, it's just, it's an awesome sticker. You got the necklace too. It hits every single aspect that you could probably want out of a sticker. Also, again, one that's not, you know, too available. It's certainly available. I mean, we're talking about Panini stickers, so at the end of the day, you can find them for sure. But it's not like there's floods of them selling all the time, which again has been nice to see for the pre-modern segment, especially on stickers like this, where you know, you want them to be desirable, or at least I do. As someone that doesn't even own the sticker, I like that it is iconic in that way, and that it has a lot of people fighting over it, generally speaking. And I think it's deserved. I mean, what a great looking sticker of one of the best Premier League players ever. And keeping it moving, here we have the 85 Panini Calciatore Baggio. This one is, yeah, I mean, it's tricky, you know, because I think a lot of pre-modern collectors probably lean more towards the 90s than the 80s. I feel like generally the 70s and 80s are sort of an unloved era in soccer, because it's not quite pre-modern and it's not quite vintage, so it sits in a weird area. However, I feel like this is probably the standout from the 80s. You have Roberto Baggio, young Roberto Baggio, with the hair, again, just flowing. A pretty distinct Calciatore release year in that way. You got the full yellow, definitely an eye catcher for one reason or another. Whether or not you like that is up to you, of course, but hard to not notice. And these do appear pretty frequently, I would say, at least in comparison to some of the other ones we've looked at so far, especially back in the day, at least from what I remember in 2022, 2023. It felt like these were selling all the time. It could be a little different now, I will say. I don't think I've been seeing them go as much, but just a sticker that's hard to avoid if you're looking through the depths of the soccer auction blocks. And I think it's made all the more iconic because he has Maldini in that rookie year as well, so I think that you kind of think of those two guys together. They sort of amplify each other in that way. He does have other 85 releases. You have the Forza goal, and then you have the Abyss, and then you have the Flash, and so there are other ones. I think if we were talking more rare iconic items, I think the Forza goal would certainly be super high on that list. That is a card that is just really sought after and hasn't sold, I think, at this point. Maybe one sold in the last year and a half or 2 years or so. I mean, it's just, they're basically ghosts at this point. And for that reason, I don't think it makes it into the iconic list, but I do think it's worthy of mention. Moving to number 7 here, we have the Marco van Basten 82-83 Panini Football. This is one that honestly you could say might deserve to be higher. I know the player, again, we're talking about the 70s into the 80s, just kind of a not a dead era, but a lackluster era in terms of collectors for the moment. At least so it feels to me. I think a lot of people that are in the 90s are still, sort of into what they're nostalgic for in soccer, and I think a lot of people that would be willing to go back and look at the 70s and 80s are probably willing to go back and just look further into vintage, and I think that this ends up being a sort of transition phase for a lot of people. But the Marco van Basten has definite hobby lore around it, mostly throughout Europe, apparently. I wasn't here the whole time, but my understanding is this has been a heavily sought after sticker for a long time. One of the best players of the era, one of the best strikers in his prime, certainly. Of course, injuries sort of hampered his career, but nonetheless, the Panini Footballs are not easy, and this one certainly isn't either. When you get a release style that, again, it's Panini, so they are out there, but, for this type of sticker, it's not really all that easy to get. It's definitely grown in terms of iconic nature in that regard. It is sort of the white whale of a lot of Panini sticker collectors' collection, and so for that reason, I think number 7 is very fair, if not low, depending on how much you value that sticker lore that's behind this Marco van Basten. Then we move up to number 6, and this one, to be honest, you could put the Marco van Basten above it. I love the sticker. I love the look of it so much. I think that R9 is a fairly more collected player within the soccer space, at least for the moment. I don't think the sticker has the same sort of lore in terms of rarity, in terms of people just not being able to obtain it. You can obtain the footballs, but again, I think that can help the iconic nature in some regards. And for me, this is certainly the R9 that I think of when it comes to R9 rookies. Again, that could be a reason that you would step this down to 7, and I could totally see it. And maybe swap the Marco van Basten here. You can see me just working through it in my head here, but he does have other rookies, which I think is a hindrance to some degree, because you can kind of, pick and choose what you like. But I find it hard to believe that this isn't sort of the rookie that comes to mind when people think of R9. Awesome image, of course, the layout with the 94 football set, really, really clean. Again, gettable sticker, not going to be hard to find if you're just looking for any grade. If you're looking for higher grades, a little more tricky for sure. And, I think it's really the player that's carrying this sticker to where it is on the list, I would say, to some extent, because R9 is just such a cult hero for those 90s collectors. And certainly deserves to be on the list in terms of position. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, but I felt 6 was a fairly good one. I guess we're going to do this live. I'm actually going to change this to 7 and the Marco van Basten to 6. So there you go. I'm pretty sure I meant to do that pre-production, but I didn't. And so ultimately just talking through them, I think the Mark van Basten deserves to be at 6. And the R9 can step down to 7. Sorry about that, but it's just how I'm feeling. Nonetheless, still a great sticker, and definitely worthy of the top 10 for sure, I feel. At number 5, I think that this was sort of the give me in terms of non-Ronaldo, non-Messi. So, spoiler, Messi and Ronaldo will take up the top 4 here in a second. But I felt like the next sticker outside of that, to me, was the 91-92 Panini foot Zinedine Zidane. The foots are always so clean, they just look so good. And to be able to have it paired with a player like Zinedine Zidane, French player, French release, one true rookie, which again is a huge deal. With someone like R9, you got plenty of rookies that you can sort of go after. With this one, there's only one that comes to mind, and everyone knows it, and that's the 91-92 Panini foot. Just looks beautiful. Young Zizou hanging out here and, ready to become one of the best midfielders in the world. So, in my mind, this was pretty clearly the one from pre-modern outside of Messi and Ronaldo. I'd love to hear if you agree with that, disagree with that. There's tons of great stickers, so I can understand, want to go other ways with it, but for me, it felt like this was basically a gimme. And then we move into the realm of Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. So we have 2 of each of them. If you want to, go ahead and pause the video and think to yourself, which 2 of each of them are you going to pick? Ronaldo's probably pretty easy. Messi, a little more tricky. But let's go ahead and do it. So we start at number 4 with the Panini Football Cristiano Ronaldo out of Portugal. His sticker rookie. One of only 2 rookies that he has in 2002-2003 season. So you can guarantee you're going to see the other one here soon. In terms of ranking these top 4, I feel like this is potentially the one that's the most underrated in terms of that ranking. I think a big reason that it's not any higher is due to the general American collector and even some of the European collectors' feelings on cards at the moment. People are pretty card crazy, especially in America. People value cards a lot more than stickers, especially in America. And, me personally, I really like this sticker for Ronaldo. I actually prefer it over the card, which could be sacrilege to some people. But I just think the sticker looks so clean. The eye appeal is off the charts. And, sticker releases in high grade are not easy by any means because, of course, people were peeling these stickers typically when they got them. And even if they were storing them away, it's not easy to store stickers and keep them, really top shape, especially for random players that you have no clue are ever going to be any good. Now, of course, in this scenario, ends up being one of the best players of all time, so you wish you would have, but, I find it hard to believe there's just masses of these. Now, you never know, but populations have sort of played out that these are relatively, rare compared to, I guess, a lot of modern type of releases that you'd see. But nonetheless, makes the list at number 4. I feel like it's a little hard done, but I'm trying to do, at least to some degree, what I feel is right. And I feel like this is right at number 4, but I could see an argument for it being higher for sure. At number 3, we went with the 2004 Mundi Cromo Lionel Messi. And I say we because I was debating what the second most iconic Messi was in my head, and I took it to an Instagram poll. If you guys don't know, I have an Instagram account linked down below where I sometimes post cards and typically troll on stories or something like that. But this time I posted a productive story where I was asking what people thought was the most iconic of the secondary Messis behind what we'll talk about later. But it was between this Mundi Cromo, his S-Day sticker, and the number 35 team set Mega Craques. So that one is the blue Mega Craques. Looks really good. Has the sort of color match with the team colors. And people went with the Mundi Cromo by a decent margin as well. And, personally, I get it in terms of iconic nature. It has that typical card design. It's got a pretty nice in-action shot here as well. I don't think the font, or I guess not the font, but like the layout, the template of, Mundi Cromo, I don't really love personally. It looks a bit cheap, but the Mundi Cromo cards are a bit cheap. And it's, late 90s into early 2000s. It sort of feels like the era, even though it does, seem a bit cheap. But it is one of the most populous card/stickers from 2004 for Lionel Messi, so it does get a lot of love in that regard. I think the typical sort of layout also plays well for people, and being a card as well always is going to help. As I mentioned before, people, at least for the moment, generally prefer cards. And finally, I think that the league release of it definitely matters. Being able to have a Messi card from a league release is going to be more difficult than, say, for instance, if you're getting the Mega Craques team set. I love the Mega Craques team set cards. They look good, but they're a team set release, and so it's not sort of the same, at least in my mind. Now, different folks, different strokes, all that good stuff. So, it's not going to be the same for everyone, but I do think that this makes it as the second most iconic Messi. Again, I feel like the Este sticker's a little hard done. I like the Este sticker a lot, but it is also not as visually striking and pleasing, I do feel, with the panel that's sort of split. I do think that this is probably better looking to most, and so I can definitely see how it's number 3. At number 2 and number 1 really rate themselves, depending on the order and how you want to rate them and all that good stuff. But we have the 2002-2003 Panini Sports Mega Craques with the Portuguese release of the Mega Craques here. This is a league-wide release, and of course, none other than Cristiano Ronaldo is featured on this card. So I put this higher than the sticker due to public perception and really what the public likes at the moment. I feel like it makes sense to put it here. For the card itself, cards are relatively rare. I will say that. Like, Panini stickers are more common than cards. The problem is the Panini stickers are, pasted into albums, so a lot of them are destroyed. But generally speaking, the card is hard to find, especially if we're talking in any condition. You could always cut out or pull out stickers from an album, to be fair. You can't do that with a card. The cards are what they are, and the rarity definitely helps. The card style of it helps. I think this card is also carried a lot by being a Mega Craques sort of cousin over there in Portugal, and so it's got the same lineage going on with it there. I think what really hurts this one in comparison to the sticker per se is I just think eye appeal. Like, the eye appeal on the sticker is so much better personally for me than the card. The card's never really spoken to me in that way, but I can totally understand why it would to some. I think that it is certainly worthy of being surely in the top 4, but maybe even the top 2, and I have it in the top 2 for that reason. I just have internal debates between which Ronaldo rookie I'd rather have, and personally, I've sort of settled on the sticker. I'd imagine I own the card one day, but I don't currently. But I still feel like it deserves to be number 2 because of the Mega Craques lineage and people's preference for cards for the most part. So we have it planted at number 2, and take a wild guess at what you think number 1's going to be. I'll let you have a second here. Here it is. Yeah, the card of the hour, the man of the hour, one of the best players to ever grace the sport, one of the best cards to ever grace the sport. We have the 2004 Panini Mega Craques Lionel Messi, number 71 bis from an update set, and come on. It's hard to beat. And so, from a totally opposite perspective, right, the Messi Este, in my opinion, doesn't even really compare to the 71 bis in terms of eye appeal. I don't think it can really make a claim for the number 1. While I do think the Este sticker is important, and I personally like it quite a bit, I think it's underrated, I don't think it really has a shout at being the number 1 unless you're just purely a sticker lover. I think if you're, semi-objective, if you like both cards and stickers to equal degrees, I think it's hard to put anything over this card, to be honest. And, I think that's the importance of eye appeal, really. I think if the Messi card looked more like this, I could imagine people would still go for it, but I think that, the imagery here, sort of seeing Messi in this head-on, running at you style, you feel like a helpless defender that's just ready to get ghosted by Messi. And, you got the badge on the right, the nameplate on the right, the colors match. Also, one thing that is pretty cool is, granted, the sporting nature of this is cool. It's interesting for sure, being able to see Messi on a rookie card in a Barca kit, where he would clearly go on to, make his entire career. Having him in that kit, I do feel like adds something special. And the colors are just off the charts. Again, the nameplate, the logo, the jersey, it's just so good. It's hard to ask for much better than that, and they did a really good job making this Mega Craques card, and at this point, in my opinion, I think it's the most iconic soccer card ever by a decent margin. Again, if you ask me to name what number 2 is, well, no spoilers, but it might be a Pele, and then after that, and even then, I think it's a decent drop to that. I think that this is clearly head and shoulders the number 1 most iconic soccer card of this moment, you know, maybe things change over time, but I'd find it hard to believe that things change too much because this is just such a special card. So that does it for us. That is the most iconic pre-modern cards and stickers, at least in my view. Of course, I'd love to hear your view down below in a comment. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, of course, and if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.